Hello, and welcome to the Integrate Yourself Podcast with Allison and Maya. You're listening to episode 1. Hi, this is Allison Pillow with the Integrate Yourself Podcast. Maya and I today will be talking about Ray Peat, who has been an amazing influence, in my opinion, on hormonal research. Since the 70s, he's been doing hormonal research, and I feel like he's way ahead of the times, way ahead of the scope of what people really know to be true about how the body truly works from a physiological standpoint, how we respond to stress, what the stress that we're under really is doing to our bodies, and how we are responding to that. How we are actually regenerating our bodies from that, how we're recovering from the stress we're putting our bodies under, and just really also redefining stress in some ways and bringing emotional and spiritual stress into the mix as well. So we're going to be talking about that, as well as we're going to touch upon learned helplessness, the concept of learned helplessness, and the basic premise behind creating health, and in opening up your own creativity. Once you actually take charge of your own health, how that can really help you, open up many, many possibilities in your world. Maya and I are both holistic health practitioners. We actually help people with the whole scope of health, and that includes movement in people's lives, that includes nutrition, and of course emotional wellness. So we have a lot of experience in those areas, and this is what we're basing our podcast on. Is we're going to be sharing with everyone lots of ideas and possibilities on how you can integrate these 3 components of yourself into your life and feel whole again. So, and in our opinion, that's true health. That's really true health, is to bring all those in and integrate them. So feel free to take it all in and enjoy.
Maya, I know you've done a lot of research on Ray Peat, and you've used a lot of his stuff yourself. I wanted to just get a little deeper into who he is, his background, and what kind of what your experience has been with using his research in your life and your coaching.
I have to say, as much as I feel I could give a great example of that, I don't have one exactly, because I feel like every time I keep coming back to Ray Peat, I'm still learning so much about just the physiology of the body. And as much as Ray Peat's information is out there, it is so complex. And one of the things that I do notice is that I have to take bits and pieces of it. I find that when I do sit down with people and kind of give them information, it has to come in like petrol oil. It's very dense. It causes people to kind of have to question what they've learned through the regular information in the web or doctors or anything like that. And so I preempt the idea that Ray Peat is a source to go to. I just would say that what I'm adding is just to kind of give people a little bit of small snippets. And I would credit some of the other people that have really studied his work, like Josh Rubin and Jeannie Rubin, and some like Kate Deering and other people that have taken the information and put it in a book form or an online program, because mainly what I'm noticing is that it is taking a lot of years to kind of come through and take his information and apply it to my life. So that's a preempt, just to say, once this information gets to you, you just kind of have to let it sit with yourself and give yourself time with it. I think what I noticed the biggest thing about Ray Peat's work is it still allows you to be the researcher, the authority to your own health. And I think that's the lead into knowing that you can help yourself, you can do these things for yourself and not give away your power to somebody else or some other system. you can actually change your life the way you see fit.
Yeah, that's what I love about it too, and because I think there's so many programs out there that you do give your power away, and you're actually just you're not really even using your own gut feelings or intuition for these programs. You're just actually just following other people's programs, which may or may not work for a lot of people. And like you said, Ray Peat's work can be pretty challenging. It takes a lot of time to work with it, and to, because your body is adapting over time to the food frequencies, the types of foods that you're eating and that kind of thing, which are, in my opinion, more natural. And, then I don't know, Weight Watchers or some of the calorie restrictive diets that we've been taught to eat, or even, the paleo diets are getting a little closer to truly how we should be, how, I don't know, but could be eating. But I think that it's still not quite there. It's a little bit too restrictive in some ways, and again, it's kind of giving people this avenue of okay, my way or the highway. So the Ray Peat thing, like you said, that is there's so many different variables, and there's so many different I guess opinions on it and how you can go about it. But I really like you mentioned, Josh and Jeannie Rubin are two that I've really learned a lot from, and they've been able to take his information and bring it out into an actual program for practitioners and for people who just want to get healthy. Kate Deere, it's great that she wrote that book. I have not read her book yet, but it looks, I've heard great things about it. But I like your perspective as well, because we both have been doing it ourselves, but I feel like you've dove a little deeper into it than I have, and used it a little bit more on a personal level. So, yeah.
So for this show, I'd say what I've learned the most about Ray Peat is that it's given me the capability to work with myself, and that is the idea that I thought would be a great segue into this first one, is to introduce myself again to myself, and that basically what I'm doing is removing the component of learned helplessness from my background of health and fitness and nutrition, and in my own series of trials and tribulations, I realized I was giving away a lot of my power to ideas that sounded great at the time based on images and theories, and the fitness industry has a great way of making you feel that that way is going to help you get all the dreams that you've ever wanted, right? You're fit, you're looking good, life's so wonderful, you've got the whole package. And there's a lot of the hidden closets that come out when you start living that lifestyle. You have to put yourself in a place of image more than really what's going on in your body. So really coming back to feeling what's going on in my body was a real key play, or to my even knowing what was going on in my mind. And so a lot of what came through this journey is the energy I carry gives me the energy to move forward anywhere I go. So responsibility is to claim your health in a way that gives you that energy. So if I'm going to do any kind of sports, or if I'm going to do any kind of daily living, I need to have the energy. And one of the greatest things I did for myself was connect to the part of me that needed to give myself permission. Not wait for permission, but give myself permission for that. To say it's okay to fail at, not knowing all the answers or fail at feeling that I did it wrong in some ways, because as we all have been told and keep being told is that the more you fail, the better you learn. And there is no such thing as failing. It's just taking that information and moving on to the next. And one of the key points about that is self-helplessness is a key phrase that's been used in research. And one of the things that they found was you can train yourself to be in self-helplessness. And what that means is you're conditioning yourself in an environment that keeps you from creating or allowing yourself to be individual. So there's a lot of opening up to your creative side when you start taking your health into your own hands. And then learning that when you create your health, not to get stuck in a dogma, but to say, oh, well, that worked or that didn't work. You have to kind of come to a non-bias, to be a researcher. I think in science, your biggest key is to not get locked down on all the variables. You have to be able to say, start over again, keep starting over again. And the life process that I've gone through with starting over again has gotten me to a place of knowing that I keep picking myself back up, start changing things as my body starts to adapt, my whole being starts to adapt. And those are meaning that every day is a new beginning, and it's an awakening to help myself be more creative.
Yeah, I love that. What came to me when you were saying that is like not identifying with what you're eating or how you're eating or whatever diet you're using. That's not your identity, but it seems to be that happens with a lot of people. That becomes who they are, right?
Yeah, and I kind of feel like you have to disconnect from the voices that are inside that are challenging you in a way of saying you're doing it wrong, but also connecting to the voice that says to you, maybe that would work. Possibly I should try that. Maybe, is that crazy of me to think that way? And kind of keep exploring that voice, because that voice is like what I believe as we talk about nowadays is that intuitive voice. It doesn't have all the answers and like all of a sudden you're going to be like, I'm so intuitive that things come to me. Like one of the greatest things about intuitiveness is that it's like a hit or miss. It depends on where you're at. You can be hitting it out of the park all day long, and then some days you're just going to have gutter balls, or you're going to have pop flies. You're going to miss it totally. And it's just a reminder to come back to the center and say, okay, I'm bad again, and I'm okay. Everything's good. I'm in the moment right now. I got a good sense that I'm safe. Everything is in that mindset of resetting yourself.
Right. I totally agree with that. That is, it's a big part of it. It's a big part of self-growth. It's a big part of like becoming an adult. You're not, like if you think of a child does what their parent asked them to do. And that's what I feel like a lot of adults are still doing, especially when it comes to like a very emotional thing like nutrition. Food is a huge emotional component for people. It doesn't always make sense the way people, eat or take care of themselves. And I think that's why that I started, I've been doing the nutrition coaching thing for a long time, but there's just this missing component that, and this is the whole reason why I got into holistic life coaching, because there's an emotional side to it that people, it's not logical at all. They either, connect with something or they don't, or they'll keep sabotaging themselves nutritionally, because of something that they need to address within themselves. And so that's one of those things where, just changing what you eat is not really going to help all the time, right?
Right, and I kind of believe that's the introduction to self over and over again. Like every day is anew, right? You wake up in the morning, you get up, wake up, get up, wake up. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You get up, you wake up, and then you get up and wake up again. So it's kind of like a wake up to your wake up. Like where am I? Okay, I'm in. I'm getting out of bed. I'm waking up, and then I wake up to what's going on for the present moment. And I think what I noticed for myself was that concept has a real simplicity to it. Like, we don't have to make this complicated, but we tend to make it complicated because we want all the answers. Like, I need to figure it out now. My life depends on me, getting my answer now. My life doesn't start until I get that now. I can't start something else until I get that part first, instead of just starting every day. And so I think that's what inspired us to have these conversations, and maybe reason why we want to keep these conversations is because they're inspirational to create something every day. Just create it, send it out there. Laws, greatnesses, whatever is just an opinion, but just get that information out. Share the message, be the messenger, because that's all we are.
Absolutely, yeah. And stepping out of that comfort zone, playing a little bit with things and just seeing where it takes you, I think is a huge, huge thing. And that's a big component, in my opinion, to health. I think if we're not doing those kinds of things and we're staying in a restricted little box or our comfort zone, then I feel like it's actually not serving us at all. And it could be making us unhealthy to some extent.
Maybe you can add your experience with repeat stuff, because, you started before I did in some ways, so maybe kind of tell us how you're living it and what's going on with you and what's your belief in it.
Yeah, so I think I've been working with the repeat philosophy is what I guess I'll call it, and his research for, I want to say, it's been a while. I would say maybe 7 years, not 5 to 7 years, somewhere in that range. And, I started off very restrictive, with a very restrictive diet, even before, now it seems to be pretty common that people do this, but when I was doing it, it was kind of, people thought I was a little crazy. So, because I think I eliminated just about everything I could eliminate in my diet, just because I had kind of talked myself into having all these issues. And there, not to say that there wasn't issues there, but I think looking back on it, I probably went a little overboard, because that's just part of my personality is perfectionism. So I fell into that hole of perfectionism, if you could say that, and then it just spiraled from there. So I just, like I said, I just kept eliminating until there was nothing else to eliminate. And I got to a place with myself where it was very depressing. I was depressed. I didn't have any energy, and I just didn't understand, because I thought I was doing everything I was supposed to do to be healthy. But at that point, that was a huge turning point for me, and a huge mind shift change, which was, it took many years. Actually, it didn't happen overnight at all. But one of my coaches and teachers, Josh Rubin, actually introduced me to the concept of eating carbohydrates and how that can help with my energy levels. And at the time, I had been cutting all my carbohydrates out, with the exception of just a few berries here and there, and because I thought that, okay, this is the way for me to eliminate parasites, to try to really, really get healthy, get my digestive system back on track. Whereas, some of that could have helped, but I think the extremity of the way I went about it was way overboard. Because if I usually do something, I go full force into it. And so that, when he first talked to me about that really, it was like, it was something that was really hard to wrap my brain around. I could not even imagine that would be healthy, because everything I had been taught up to that point was against that. It was like, cut all your sugar out. And to me, thinking about adding sugar back in, which is the one thing I'd been eliminating for so long, was like, what? I can't possibly consider doing that. That's crazy. But now I look back on it and I'm like, oh, well, that actually makes a lot of sense. But anyway, so I'm still there, And I started getting more energy and feeling better instantly and feeling alive again. And I was like, okay, there is something to this.
Right? So, that's a part of the real awareness, right? When you start to say, oh, I need to rethink this. Like, the restrictiveness was easier than to kind of, because once you kind of get into a pattern, it's like, I need to perfect it, right? And then perfection causes that elimination, and the elimination keeps you kind of chasing this deal.
In a controlled state, you feel like you're under control, right? You feel like you have control of everything. And that to me is a false sense of control. It's much like eating disorder, basically. It is an eating disorder. Yeah,
and it comes from, I think a part of me believes that it comes from this idea that if I have the most knowledge, or I can get as much knowledge as possible, I won't screw it up, right? I'll just attain everything I can about it. I'll know in and out about it, and then I can't mess up, right? I can't change. I can't do anything to screw this up. But that's not how it works. Like, knowledge can actually put you in a whole other twist. Like, over knowledge can actually keep you from being creative, because you start to say, well, I can't have that. If I had that, what would that mean? And and I guess so many things are popping through my head as we talk, and I kind of want to go into different directions. So I feel this is such a great conversation to start with. It really brings up a lot of issues for maybe our listeners to maybe, give us a little input of how you feel and what your struggles have been with food, your struggles with how to, claim your health, and what parts of you are helping, and what parts of you are sabotaging yourself based on your loyalties of knowledge. And maybe you could give us a little input of what you'd like to hear about more specifically in our next podcast.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to hear from people too, and just to get people's opinions, but on this conversation, but also please give us some feedback on what you'd like to hear in the future, because we have we have all this knowledge and experience we really want to share with everybody, and this is the whole intention of the podcast, is to be able to share that and help as many people as we can with that information. And just to let you know that we most likely have been down the same road. So, that is pretty much it. I think, for me, the biggest challenge really has been I think it all leads back to perfectionism, leading back to, my competitive life as a gymnast, and it's just being in control in that way, and then maybe realizing later that, there are other ways that I can feel at ease and in control, other than, trying to control my external stuff. So, the ways I've gone about it is, working on my inner self and feeling whole again that way. And that's been huge for me personally.
Yeah, I keep coming to that. Knowing self helps you know the world, because you are the world. It's just an external image of yourself that you see. So whatever is inside yourself, you're seeing it outside. So giving yourself that knowing that the more I accept myself for all of it, not just parts of it, but all of it, gives me a better and brighter version of the world itself. And how empowering that is for me is immense. I mean, I don't think I really understood what it meant to accept self, and now it's kind of coming toward me in a way that, wow, there's no other way to do this life. You gotta, your perfection is in your imperfections, and giving ourselves the ability to, not get caught up in the coulds, woulds, shoulds, as I think someone called it, cows.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda, something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think that, and that's not to say that you shouldn't, try to be better, or try to better yourself. I think that still is always, it's a challenge, and it's something that we should always strive for. But how are you doing that, and who are you doing it for? Those are the questions to ask yourself. And it should really be for you, and not for, if it's too much for other people, then that's a problem in itself too.
Yeah, and that's where I think I was talking to Bob, is about how, it's not just being an adult in the world where you take care of your finances and you take care of your daily routines and stuff. It's a real, adultness that comes in about how to take care of this vessel that you're living in, that there's a balance, a wheel of things that you have going on that's segmented into your life. So if you have finances in one segment, and it's like a pie cut, you just cut your life into a pie and then see what side of your wheel is not running as strong as the other sides, and you'll see where you're flopping around like a tire that has a flat, and that part of us that kind of says, okay, I'm taking responsibility, and it's an adventure, not a drama or a woe is me, poor me, no one cares. It's about, invitation.
Yeah, it's getting out of that learned helplessness state, right? The learned helplessness where you have no control, or you don't even maybe know you're in that, right?
Exactly. I mean, I find one of the greatest words is that it's learned. It's not that you're helpless in general. It's just that you've learned it to be. So challenge yourself and the voices that come in within yourself that says, who told me I had to believe that story that I'm creating up? Or how do I keep teaching people to treat me in a way that I continuously make myself a pathetic, poor me, or a victim, or a martyr, or any of the archetypes that we probably will bring up later on, that our psyche likes to change. It's, we move through those like a Rolodex, So these are the questions that keep you in the now and the present, is to kind of come back and say, wow, that's an incredible story I just told myself. How did I learn that? Where did that come from? and that will, I think, for our listeners, help us explore more as we learn what our stories mean, what is the intuitive, creative, and the paradoxical sides of us, and how those stories can help evolve and change once we get an awareness of how we can actually change those stories. Once we get through the root of where it's coming from, we have the ability to change. It's the creative side of us. It's the part of us that just forgets that, and we need to come back to that knowing that is in us.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, I think that we talked about a lot of good stuff today, and thank you, Maya, for doing this with me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Integrate Yourself podcast with Allison and Maya. We'll be doing so much more in the future, so please stay tuned. You can find more about my business, Pure Energy Wellness, at pureenergypdx.com. You can find out more about Maya at mayagottlieb.com.